Welcome to the Newsa-Cast YouTube channel. These Red Smith Banquet throwbacks are exclusive interviews of sports legends, powerful media personalities, and influential coaches. You won't find these anywhere else. Subscribe below and enjoy. Well, Tosh, it is Red Smith Banquet throwback time. Another exciting episode of who are we going to pull out of the past and play for you guys. Well, this week we've got, he's the guy that, I know the Badgers are down this year, but he's the guy that made the Badgers the Badgers. He's the one that, because Camp Randall is renovated the way it is, it started with this man, Coach Barry Alvarez, Tash.
Yeah, well, fantastic, a legend. I mean, absolutely for Wisconsin sports, University of Wisconsin sports. He's played a huge role in everything, but he started out as a football coach for the Badgers and basically brought them back to the national scene.
Yeah, he turned that program around. He got them back to the Rose Bowl. He got them to be a powerhouse. Even the transition to Bielema, things like that. I mean, the team stayed relatively strong through that time. Of course, Barry stayed on as athletic director for a lot of years. So he's had his hand in Wisconsin, not only football but the entire athletic program for a lot of years. So it was Terry Bowden was the main speaker that year. So I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm not remembering 2000. This banquet too well, 2006, but Terry Bowden, Barry Alvarez, let's go.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a great show. And Gaylord Perry, I remember Gaylord being awesome as well. And we've had him on the throwback before also.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
This is a great show. You guys are going to love it. Anytime you get to talk Wisconsin football with Barry. So if you love this, continue to follow our socials and any place you get your podcast, check it out.
The Boomer, Matt Vandenboom.
Thank you, Chuck. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When Mike Reese called me several weeks back and invited me to introduce Barry at this evening's banquet, I remember feeling first very humbled, but secondly quite privileged and kind of excited to have the opportunity to honor Barry this way. What I didn't count on was some of the instructions he gave me after that. He said, you know, Matt, we're on a time frame here, and the folks really don't want to hear from you as much as they do from Barry. So you're going to need to, use about 4 or 5 minutes, and, you might want to think about just sort of representing what Barry has meant to the University of Wisconsin and the state of Wisconsin. As I hung up the phone, I remember this wave of anxiety. I don't have a prayer of reviewing what Barry Alvarez has meant to the University of Wisconsin and the state of Wisconsin in 5 minutes. So, needless to say, I'm facing a daunting task. Well, before dinner at the cocktail hour, I ran into Terry Bowden, and we were talking, sharing stories a little bit, and Terry said at some point when he had found out that I was introducing Barry that for a guy like Barry, if you can't get that crowd standing in the first minute, you're not very darn good. And I said, Terry, you want to give me some odds? And he said, yeah, insurmountable. So I definitely have a daunting task in front of me. It's going to take a spirited effort. It's going to take an inspirational effort. I'm going to have one of those beat all odds performances here. Sort of like what Barry Alvarez did this past season with the 2005 Wisconsin Badger football team. He took a team that many of us expected to finish about 500 to a 9-3 regular season record. And then the climax, of course, was the bowl victory over a heavily favored and highly talented Auburn Tiger team. This task is going to be akin to that sort of task. Would you agree?
John's watching the clock.
Terry, that was 51 seconds, and I didn't use a timeout. Let me take you back to February of 1990 and share with you sort of the state of the athletic department at the time. They were facing big deficits, largely as a function of the football team that was in decline. In the previous 4 seasons, they had won 9 games against 36 defeats. More troubling was the fact that the average attendance at Badger games had dropped to 42,000 folks. That means half of us were staying home. The prevailing expectations at the time were that Wisconsin could not recruit nationally, that the academic standards were too high, that locally there just weren't enough Division I players to really carry the load, and that at best Wisconsin could expect to finish in the upper tier of the Big Ten and perhaps get to a bowl game. And one other little tidbit from the time, we had all kind of learned a new four-letter word. You guys will remember it very well, veer. But there was a source of optimism. We had Donna Shalala, a bundle of energy as chancellor. She had just hired Pat Richter, one of our own. And there was an enthusiasm. And if you were a Badger fan back then, you looked with keen interest at the hire of the next coach. I was specifically interested because one of my former coaches was on that short list of potential coaches. And when Barry Alvarez was announced as the head coach, I remember getting on the conference call with some of my old teammates. We commiserated a little bit first that our guy didn't get hired. But at some point in the conversation, the discussion went to, well, who was this Barry Alvarez guy? And none of us really knew at the time. So we began to look at the resume in front of us, sharing it over the phone. He played linebacker at Nebraska from 1965 to 67 under the legendary coach Bob Devaney. He was a leading tackler in 1967 on a defense that led the nation. He played in both the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl, received both his bachelor's and master's degree from Nebraska, coached high school football in Nebraska before moving to Mason City, Iowa, and doing the same. Joined Hayden Fry's staff in 1979, stayed there through '86, and coached defense. At this point in the conversation, a few of us recognized that we had played against Barry's teams. We were 0-5 and couldn't score. So this resume is looking a little bit more interesting. From Iowa, Barry joined Lou Holtz's staff at Notre Dame in '87, '89. Initially, he was a linebacker coach, moved up to defensive coordinator, and in the 3rd year became assistant head coach. And along the way, he picked up a national championship ring in 1988. At some point, as we're reviewing this resume, somebody on the phone sounds real profound and prophetic and says something to the effect, you know, this guy could be okay. Come back to the present with me. We're here tonight to honor Barry and his distinguished achievements of coaching over a coaching career of 26 years. And although his achievements have been well documented of late, indulge me for a moment as I share some of the reasons why Barry has reduced the old expectations to mere myths. First myth, Wisconsin couldn't compete nationally in recruiting. During his tenure, Barry coached 54 eventual NFL draft choices, 30 All-Americans, 59 first-team All-Big Ten selections, 108 All-Big Ten academic selections, 4 Defensive Players of the Year, 2 Big Ten MVPs, and oh yeah, there was the Heisman Trophy winner, Ron Dane. Tom Lemming, a renowned football analyst for high school football, referred to Barry as the nation's #1 recruiter in one of his publications. And Wisconsin today, as you know, competes effectively for recruits from coast to coast. The second myth, Wisconsin can at best look to finish in the top tier of the Big Ten and perhaps get into a bowl game. In his 16 years at Wisconsin, Barry led the Badgers to 11 bowl games and an 8-3 record, giving him the highest winning percentage in the NCAA history for coaches with at least 11 bowl games. Tied for second on the list are the two youngsters at Florida State and Penn State, Bobby Bowden and Joe Paterno. Yeah, absolutely. And the list of legends behind them sounds like this: Barry Switzer, Lou Holtz, Bear Bryant, Woody Hayes, and Tom Osborne. He coached 3 Big Ten championship teams and won 3 Rose Bowls. He's the only Big Ten coach to win back-to-back Rose Bowls, and along with Woody Hayes, the only Big Ten coach to win 3. He's only the 10th coach in league history to win over 100 games. And no surprise, Barry's the winningest coach in Badger history. He was recognized as National Coach of the Year in 1993 by Bobby Dodd Foundation, and again in '99 by the American Football Coaches Association. He was Big Ten Coach of the Year 2 times and a finalist for ESPN's College Coach of the Decade for the decade of the 90s. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to talk to some of his players. They relate to Barry as a consummate leader, motivator, incredible ability to focus his teams on the task at hand. And you always knew where you stood with Barry. He was fair and honest. One of the key byproducts of his team's success has been the ticket shortage that many of us have witnessed over the years. Wisconsin has averaged more than 75,000 fans per home game for the last 11 seasons. With Camp Randall full and alumni and fans inspired, the athletic department embarked on a $109 million renovation project back in 2001. Now completed, Camp Randall is one of the finest venues for football in the country and certainly one of the toughest places to come and play for our opponents. All of this only begins to address the question of what Barry Alvarez has meant to Badger football. Perhaps Barry answered it best when minutes after winning the Capital One Bowl, an ABC analyst approached him and asked him what he thought his legacy would be at Wisconsin. Barry, without hesitation, said, we brought pride back to the university, the athletic department, and the state of Wisconsin. When Barry and Cindy Alvarez arrived in Madison back in 1990, it was clearly a great day for Wisconsin fans. Over the last 16 years, Barry and his teams have returned Badger football to one of the most highly respected programs in the country. And at the same time, the athletic department is as strong as ever and recognized nationally as well. So, I went on a conference call with my old teammates the other day after the bowl game, talking about the great ride that Barry was on, talking about the new guy, talking about a lot of things. And at some point, someone said, so, how do you think Barry will do as AD? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in honoring the 2006 Red Smith Award winner, Barry Alvarez.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Boomer. Tell you got a good degree at the University of Wisconsin, can't you? I'm going to tell you something now. Terry, you should know better. An Auburn guy challenging a Wisconsin guy this year. You should know better than that. Come on. That's pretty good, Boomer. I like that. And you know what? I want to make something perfectly clear. The evening started out with the baseball guys getting up and speaking. There was reference to baseball and looking at me. And Matt Painter, Matt's not here, but I want you to know I love baseball. I'm a baseball guy. I am a baseball guy, and I thought Scott did a tremendous job in the message that he sent to young people about jumping in. And a tremendous message, and I appreciated that. And I'm going to share a story with you. I've told one time, and I told it at the first Rose Bowl. I had a reoccurring dream when I got this job in 1990. I had this reoccurring dream, and I told it at the Rose Bowl. I dreamt that I went to my first Big Ten conference meetings, the luncheon, with all the coaches. And all the coaches had a contest to see who was going to win the league championship, who was going to go to the Rose Bowl. And it started by who was picked first in the conference, and you would go first. And the contest was there was one fish put in the swimming pool. And whoever got that fish was going to represent the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl. Of course, I'm the last guy to go. First guy was Gary Moeller at Michigan, and Moeller just attacks it. No couth, he just goes after it with his hands. He falls in, he's eliminated. John Cooper tries it with a spear at Ohio State. He wasn't very smart. He slipped, he fell in. Of course, the wily fox, Hayden Fry, you know, he's going to do a little fishing. He's going to do a little fly fishing. He couldn't do it. He got frustrated and threw it in. Well, I'm the last guy. And I showed up with a teaspoon. And I started spooning the water. I said, Alvarez, what the heck are you doing? I said, you know what? This is going to take a little while. It's going to be very tedious, but I'm going to the Rose Bowl. It certainly is an honor to be here tonight, and certainly want to thank Red Smith Committee and for this prestigious award. And I haven't had an opportunity. This is the first time in, I guess now 17 years that I've had a chance to make the banquet. It's always right in the middle of recruiting or the close of recruiting season, so this is my first time, but I've heard so much about the banquet. And Fox River Valley has been a wonderful place for the university, particularly for me in recruiting. So many good players, and starting with a Boomer, coming down, and you know, I'd love to have a safety look like him right now. And Mike Verstegen was mentioned earlier. Mike was on in our first recruiting class. And our first recruiting class really set the standard for our program. We had about three weeks to recruit, and went out and really tried to, you know, if you remember the statement I made when I took the job, for us to be successful, we have to build a wall around the state, not allow our good players to leave the state. If we could do that, we'll have a chance. Now, the heart and soul will be from the state. The hands and feet may come from someplace else, but well, Mike was one of the soulmates, you know what I mean? One of those big linemen that did so well for us, but they set the standard. And one of my all-time favorites it was Tom Wiesner from Neenah. Wies was a consummate Badger, and we started passed away a couple years ago, but when I first came was at Las Vegas, known as the Big Dog, and loved Wisconsin, did so much for the program, and really represented what our football program was about. And of course, one of our key basketball players right now is from right here in Appleton. Brian Butch is killing him. We're proud of him. But it's great to be a Badger right now. Last fall, as you know, we completed our $110 million renovation of Camp Randall Stadium, which, you know, Camp Randall was a wonderful venue as it was. But right now, it takes a back seat to no one. And also last year, we completed the Porter Crew House, an $8 million crew house on Lake Mendota, one of the finest facilities. And I just asked the crew coaches, just improve your attendance. Just improve your attendance, and everything will be okay. Now that you have the crew house as it is, they assured me they would. Our men's cross-country team ran away with the NC2A championships this year. And our volleyball team reached the NC2A Elite Eight for the second season in a row. Currently, we're 5th out of 325 schools in Division I for the Directors' Cup, which shows breadth of the athletic program. I'm very proud, naturally, of what our football team accomplished this year. And I have to admit, I don't think we've played ever any better. I thought we played as well as we could play. Guys really played exceptional against an outstanding Auburn team in the Capital One Bowl. And that's a game I'll never forget, you know, especially being my last ball game. But currently our men's basketball team, Bo's is the best. Bo Ryan is the best. And really pleased to have him as leading our basketball program. Currently we're ranked 13th in the country, have sole possession of first place in the Big Ten, and we'll go down to Ohio State tomorrow and have a great game with them. And remarkably, we're sitting here #1 in the country in both men's and women's hockey. And, I think it makes me so proud that our fans have given us such tremendous support. Men's and women's, or men's football, men's basketball, we're sold out on a season ticket basis. I doubt whether there's anyone else in the country that can say that. Our women's basketball game this last Sunday had a tremendous turnout. We celebrated our 1 millionth fan to attend and support a Badger event this year during that game. You know, as all of you know and has been mentioned, I'm excited about my new role as the leader of the athletic department. Be full-time athletic director now, and I really am excited about the fact that I'm turning it over to Brett Bielema. You know, it's kind of interesting in the state now, a state that loves football, that we have 2 new head coaches coming in, and I was asked this question today, and what do you think, and what should the fans say about the 2 new head coaches? You know what? I think the one thing that the fans in this state should do, and we all should do, is support both head coaches, let them coach, and then evaluate it. But let's get behind these 2 coaches. I just want you to know that although we're enjoying a lot of success of late in our athletic department, we have a lot of work to do. My goal is to continue to improve our athletic department, not be satisfied. We can get a lot better. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we'll have a department that everyone in this state will be very proud of. Thank you again for this award. This has been awesome.
Please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we post another great episode or interview. Download the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support.